Also, what we'll do with fire prevention and first aid is I'll meet with them and then pass on the numbers to the governing body so we can keep the process moving. Okay. So yes, Mayor, I apologize, I interrupted you.
Approval of minutes, I'm asking for a motion to carry the minutes of January 27, 2014. Do I have an introduction?
I'll introduce it.
Yes, for a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Henwood? Councilman Doran?
Yes.
Councilman Monty?
Yes.
Councilman Vidal?
Abstain.
Councilman Bartolomeo?
Yes.
Receipt of bids, we have none. The adoption of public ordinances, we have none. Communication petitions, we have none. We have an introduction of ordinances. We have 1503, 2014, an ordinance of the Borough of Edgewater, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, amending, supplementing, and reaffirming the development project, redevelopment plan for the I Park property. Any discussion?
No, I think that it's, well, yes, I guess, I say no, I think that, there's a couple of things that are happening here. The housing part of it is being reduced. Square footage remain the same, but the amount of the apartment sizes are being reduced. We have additional units, but this should help tremendously with regard to the school situation, 3 bedrooms down to 2, 2 down to 1. In addition, the square footage use for the commercial properties with regard to the Marriott is just a real good land use. I mean, you're talking about 2% tax going into the borough revenue. It's really not a big traffic generator. People come and go at a very slow pace into hotels. It's just a nice thing to have. I think it upgrades the whole property. So these things have been asked of us, and I think it's probably to do. So I know
So you mentioned the additional units and the hotel. We also have a reduction of commercial square footage from 100,000 square feet to 85,000. We have the inclusion of one freestanding bank, not to exceed 3,500 square feet. There's an increase in lot coverage from 75 to 85%. And the parking garage is now permitted as standalone structures rather than requiring retail or office uses to be incorporated. So that's just to go over the outline all the changes. Do we have any further discussion on that?
No, I think it's a great idea. We're adding additional units, which bring in additional rateables, and making sure that we keep children from the project. In other words, we don't have too many kids that move into the project and come into our schools.
Any further discussion? Do I have an introduction?
I'll introduce it.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Whereas an ordinance of the Borough of Edgewater, County of Bergen, New Jersey, amending, supplementing, and reaffirming the development project redevelopment plan for the I Park property was introduced on February 20, 2014. Councilman Henwood?
Yes.
Councilman Doran?
Yes.
Councilman Monty?
Yes.
Councilman Vidal?
Yes.
Councilman Bartolomeo?
Yes.
Whereas an ordinance of the Borough of Edgewater, County of Bergen, New Jersey, amending, supplementing, and reaffirming the development project to the redevelopment plan for the I Park property was introduced on February 18th, thank you. February 18, 2014, and passes its first reading and will be considered for final passage and public hearing on April 21st, 2014 at 7 p.m. at the Edgewater Municipal Building, 55 River Road, Edgewater, New Jersey.
Okay, next we have 1504, 2014, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 282, parking lots, and Chapter 293, parks and recreation areas, to update parking restrictions for the municipal recreation areas and historic Borough Hall. Basically, this one comes down to parking restrictions for behind Borough Hall, and anybody parking there should be utilizing the building or coming to use the building. So, do I have any further
The
discussion?
spots along the side on the street, it's great.
I'm sorry?
That doesn't include the spots right along this side, right?
No, because those are restricted anyway. You have a yellow line from the corner up to, I believe, a few feet past the hydrant.
I know I meant the 4 spots to the side, here, plus the one on the other side next to the burger place.
Oh, no, this is the historic Borough Hall.
Oh, sorry.
This is historic Borough Hall.
Hello. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Do I have an introduction?
I'll introduce it.
Second?
I'll second it.
It's a historic borough.
Roll call.
Councilman Henwick?
Yes.
Councilman Dorn?
Yes.
Councilman Monty?
Yes.
Councilman Vidal?
Yes.
Councilman Bartolome?
Yes.
Whereas an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 282 parking lots and Chapter 293 parks and recreation areas to update parking restrictions for municipal recreation areas and historic Borough Hall, introduced on February 18th, 2014, and passes its first reading, it will be considered for final passage and public hearing on March 18th, 2014 at 7 p.m. at the Edgewater Municipal Building, 55 River Road, Edgewater, New Jersey.
Councilman Henwood, do you have a committee report?
Just sharing some of the comments. Kudos to Tommy for well done continuing snowstorms. You know, just guys, they're getting kind of beat up. You know, after a while, the overtime doesn't really matter anymore. So we're gonna have to get a little creative as how we give them some relief. Don't know what the answer is. Next time I look into it, but they're stressed pretty high. That's it. Thank you.
That's it, do you?
Yeah, that's all.
Councilman Doran, do you have?
No, sir.
Councilman Monty?
No, Mayor.
I had a discussion today with Vince, owner of Munidex, to go over some of the new updates to our software, the Munidex software. We're going to try to schedule something with Debbie Riley, with Greg, Phil. I don't know if he actually followed up with you, Greg, and gave you a phone call. I told him to kind of work that all out with you, where we were going to take a look at some of the sub-accounts and maybe refresh some of the titles of those sub-accounts that are no longer being used, just to continue to work towards the integrity of our budget, find out ways that we can actually use the upgrades in the system to help generate some of these reports that I kind of do manually, see if there's a way of facilitating them so that we can get that report or that information in a touch of a button whenever we want them at that moment, you know. And so we're going to sit down and spend some time together and see if we can go through those issues and make it a lot easier next year's budget.
Yeah, it just, if you don't mind, you know, I think that's really important because what you see is happening is they have some money left over one account and plug it into another, and that's not really helping us identify at the end of the year what exactly is being spent. That happens in the private sector a lot, but usually you can't get away with it. I think this is going to help try to continue that. You started that a couple of years ago, and it's a good effort. I think you're here to catch it on, that, you know, they have to really, even if it goes over, that's fine. We'll either increase it or figure out how to level it, but they have to.
And the message is that, you know, if they go over budget, then that means that we're not giving them enough money for that particular subject. And if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. And some of these reports that I've been working on, and I saved the data for like 4 or 5 years, kind of labor intensive. So that's why I'm hoping that Vince might be able to build something into the program that'll enable us to kind of track our progress with consecutive years and be able to do this at you know, stroke of key on you know, rather than put all that time and effort in lining things up and doing all that work.
It's a path of least resistance right now. No one likes change, but it's got to come.
Right, yeah. That's it.
Councilman Monty? Okay, I'd just like to take the time to commend the DPW on
Yeah.
their efforts. It's, everybody knows it. I leave for work around 5:20 in the morning. I see Tommy's been out every morning early with the payloader. And I receive a lot of complaints from residents with snow being thrown back on their sidewalks and all. I have the same issue. I deal with it on the road. But this time around, I actually received more compliments than complaints because they realized the efforts the DPW made up by both schools and just throughout town. So Edgewater's always had good snow removal. So just want to mention that. Okay, we have resolutions. We have resolutions 2014-51 through 2014-62. As we look at them, they're pretty self-explanatory. Some housekeeping, some payout requests from our police, and I'd ask for a consent agenda on the resolutions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Hillen.
Yes.
Councilman Dorn.
Yes.
Councilman Monti.
Yes.
Councilman Vidal.
Yes.
Councilman DePalma.
Mr. Mayor, when would be the appropriate time to discuss a resolution request that came in for a consensus to the council as to, we had a request come in from the owners of St. Moritz. They're looking to sell the building. They have 3 affordable housing units still within their deed restriction within their assessment, and they would like to move those over to 38 COA. We're in the process of talking to COA and the Attorney General and get our ducks in a row. I'd like to, they needed to move that process forward. Just a consensus, if appropriate people could vote here, with regard to that we don't, in theory, have an issue with switching, because it happens all the time and people tell it all the time. And what they would do is the 3 people that are in the building, they would remain in writing until they wanted to ever go, and they would own those in the same conditions. And then the additional 3 would pick up over in 38 COA. And I would like to see if we could request a resolution in that regard from the floor. How does that work, Phil?
Yes, there is a request has been made through the Borough Administrator's Office concerning 38 COA, that there is an impending sale, and one of the conditions of sale is a request to relocate the 3 units of affordable housing that currently exist there to the property located at 38 on Breland Avenue, 38 COA, which has been the development that has accommodated other developers throughout the years who have an affordable housing obligation. And we have verified through our other consultants and experts that it is appropriate to have the affordable housing obligation satisfied by locating other off-site developments at that location. This is slightly different because this was done in 2007 and does have 3 units identified as part of the deed restriction. So the question that has come up, subject to the approval of the governing body, if that is something that we are permitted to do, whether the governing body would be in agreement with that request, subject to my verifying that whatever steps we have to follow to do that, then take those steps. But I think we look for direction from the governing body whether they would be in favor of that.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was requesting.
So there's a deed restriction.
Currently, yeah. So the request would be to remove that deed restriction and transfer it over to 38 COLA, the existing affordable housing project that has additional units available. We verified that currently there are, let's see if I have this correctly, there's at least 10 units that are still unallocated, if that's the right word, for that project. Yeah, so there's essentially 10 units. So the 3 units currently at the St. Moritz would be transferred over to 38 COA, and that would then leave 7 additional units.
So you'll be waiting on an approval through
How many of them are on?
COA, or is it?
If that's what it requires, we
Yeah,
would
fine.
have to get, we would have to get input from them to make sure that that is an appropriate
Well, we're just looking for a consensus that we don't have an objection to it, that's all we're saying. We're not-
Why wasn't, point of order, that should have been on the agenda. Obviously, we had previous notice. That's not legal, that's not fair, and that's not good government.
Are we minimizing the, or getting rid of COA units? We
No.
wouldn't be getting, no, we would just be assigning those 3 units to another
different
location.
location.
Is there any impact to our COA obligation?
Where are the five we own?
I've been advised that there is none, that would not impact it one way or the other, it's just relocating them from one location to another,
Where are the five the borough owns?
so. I mean, that's the request, so, subject
Can I, to Valerie's point is, can we just bring up a resolution?
Well, I think we can add something to the agenda if we want.
Of course.
I mean, point of order
Yeah,
is not.
this was last minute, it was not.
No, he already had a discussion, it wasn't last minute. It's on tape.
Point of order is not something that comes from the audience. Point of order is generally reserved
Okay.
to the.
No, it's
Go
not.
to
elected
comes from the
officials.
audience.
It comes
So
from the audience,
the,
according to order, Robert's rules.
Mayor, if you would
Please,
ask the
Alan.
public if they would not speak when we're trying to discuss this.
When?
I received this information, I think Friday, I've been made aware of it. Greg, we just followed up on it. It is gonna take some additional follow-up, there's no doubt about it. The issue is whether or not the governing body has an objection to pursuing whatever final steps have to be taken in order to accommodate that request, so.
It's ultimately not our decision, so, but it's just a question of whether or not we can let the process move forward. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah, sure. Can we write a resolution for that then? Greg?
Well, I briefly taking some notes here. There's been a motion from Councilman Henwood for the transfer of 3 units of affordable housing from the St. Moritz to 38 COA. And the motion is in support by the governing body of lifting the deed restriction at the St. Moritz for 3 units of affordable housing to transfer those 3 units to 38 COA. Is that accurate?
Sounds fine to me.
I think that's accurate.
Oh, that's accurate.
So we have,
So once again, that's just allowing you to look into it.
Yeah, I think there's a number of steps that would have to be taken to ensure that, you know, this is something that we're going to be able to do. There's currently a recorded deed, and so steps would have to be taken through further consultation with our COA expert as to exactly how that process would take place. We've been in touch with that consultant, Megan York, is that correct, Greg?
yes.
And she has indicated that she is making further inquiry as to precisely, you know, what would need to be done in order to allow that to happen. But, you know, the first step is to see if the governing body had a, you know, an objection to transferring them from one location to another. And the motion is to allow that process to go forward.
So am I asking for?
So we have a motion by Councilman Henwood, we just need a second.
I'll second.
Who was that seconded by, Mayor?
I'll second.
I thought
Councilman,
it was Tony.
Okay.
second by Councilman Bartolomeo. Okay, and the roll call, Councilman Henwood?
Yes.
Councilman Doran?
Yes.
Councilman Monty?
Abstain.
Councilman Vidal?
Yes.
Let's go backwards.
Do we,
Right, let's reverse that.
should I abstain, Mr. Booth?
I think under the request for this particular item, I think because you have indicated that the owner of the St. Moritz is your former brother-in-law, and the issue of whether there would be a direct or indirect financial benefit could impact the vote, so
I'll
it's my
abstain.
recommendation to abstain. You abstain.
So we have on roll call, Councilman Henwood, yes. Councilman Doran abstained, Councilman Monty abstained, Councilman Vidal?
Yes.
Councilman Vidal, yes, and Councilman Bartolomeo.
Yes.
Old business,
You're done. That's
New
what you have to do
business.
tonight.
to the council about the Veterans Field Project, roadside construction, and whether we should take some decisive action on that pending situation. I think we need to go into close, talk about that, and maybe at the end of that closed session, there may be a recommendation to take formal action in regard to Veterans Field. So I would wait for the closed session.
Greg, do you have a report?
Yes, Mayor. I park, some of these items were from work sessions, so they got incorporated. Summer camp, that was pretty much addressed. Again, summer camp will be at GW School. The medical staff, we've discussed this evening with the Board of Health. School board requested, and again, this is just a reminder from meeting with the school board in regard to summer camp. They did put a request in to see if the council would consider a contribution towards their generator at the GW School. River Road sewer repair. Let me just, I may have thrown it out, I apologize, yes I did. Okay. There are
That's
four.
one of the documents here.
Yeah, no, that, I must have recycled it already. There were 3 addresses on River Road. 14, I'm gonna say 1448, 1450, 1452, 1454. If you're traveling on River Road northbound, right prior to Rusty's, there are 4 homes there that were built by the Zimic brothers several years ago. Technically, the driveway leading up from River Road to these 4 homes is considered a driveway. It is not a roadway. We have had several sewer problems in that area, and the engineer in Public Works feels that there's probably a breakage in the line. We've sent several notification to these 4 property, actually 3 property owners. One property owner owns 2 of the homes, advising them that they need to make the necessary repairs. We've sent Board of Health notices, and if we don't receive a response, we will execute the repairs and lien the property. So before we do that, I just wanted your insight on whether or not we should move forward on this. I did speak to Phil Boja and the borough engineer about it. And again, it's something that's going to keep happening, and unfortunately, these 3 property owners are ignoring our communications.
Is this a sewer connection, technically? Because it's
Yeah,
from property to sewer.
it's a sewer lateral that actually
We could go down.
goes down their driveway. But in any other instance would be considered a road, but it's not a road. We've had several residents over the years who move into the property, assume that that's a public roadway, and, they'll call out and say, hey, my road wasn't plowed, and we said, well, that's a driveway.
It's a long road that has several units up in the back there, right?
Yeah. So,
And that's one line that services all 3 that connects to the
all
main?
4 houses, yeah.
All 4.
So engineer estimates that it could be anywhere from a $5,000 to $10,000 repair, probably more towards the 5,000 side. So it needs to be addressed.
Are all 4 units owned independently by 4 different people? Or is the building owned by one?
One property owner owns 2 homes, and then the other 2 homes are owned separately.
Do they have some kind of homeowners association?
I tried to get them to do that several years ago. I said, you guys should create an association, pay for a snow plow and things of that nature. Our advice just goes unheeded.
We don't have any jurisdiction over that, it's a private property.
Exactly.
Greg, this is a $5,000 repair each?
No.
In total?
For the one repair, because the lateral works for all 4 houses. services hopefully.
Is that causing a problem for any of the surrounding residents, or what kind of impact is there for the borough?
You're having raw sewage bubble up through the road and spill down. It's our obligation to notify the DEP, called it in as a spill. We've done that several times. Tom's gone there with the sewer truck. We break the problem up through the line, but obviously there's a break somewhere, and we need to repair it.
This is just my opinion, and Phil, please jump in if you think I'm out of line, but I think that the repair should be done immediately, and then the lease should be put on properties, and maybe divide that lien equally into all four units. I think that's the way it should be done.
I think you're right, Councilman Vidal. I think that's precisely what's going to happen. Greg, who's going to do the repair work?
We typically call 3 to 4 vendors for
Right,
quotes.
so all we need is quotes. Greg or whoever will select a contractor to make the repair. We put the homeowners on notice for the final time, and then we are going to go in and make the repairs and simply file a lien divided equally among the 4 properties.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have to have equity in the property in order to be able to place a lien on it?
It becomes, it's equivalent to a tax liability. So it doesn't, it takes priority over any other, encumbrance or something like that.
Okay, I understand.
And it's not a large amount of money, so.
Right, exactly.
We really should be getting their cooperation, and we're really not getting their
Right.
cooperation. They're ignoring us, and we need to take action.
I think that once you do that, and you place the lien, I
Yeah.
think that they're gonna start seeing that it's reality, and they'll probably pony up the money.
Yeah.
So the consensus of the council, we can proceed?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Elected officials training, you've done wonderfully, thank you. It's also online, so next year you'll be able to do the training from the comforts of your home. Just want to advise you, public service is going to be installing the underground power lines to supply the Fort Lee development from Dempsey Avenue to just north of Route 5. It was supposed to start next week, but because of the weather, they postponed it. So probably within the next week or two, they're going to start that work. One lane of traffic, either north or southbound, will be closed. However, traffic will be flowing because it'll simply merge the traffic over. So traffic will be moving both north and southbound. However, 2 of either the north or southbound lanes will be closed at any given time, and traffic will be flowing. We'll send out a reverse message on that to advise the residents.
Greg, is that the whole, is that one half of the road being dug up, the whole way?
No, apparently they're not, they're just doing trench work. So the trench work is minimal, it's not significant in any way. Just bear with me, and I apologize. And I believe that's it.
As far as, I have a library appointment, I have a 5-year term to fill in, and I'm putting Adrian Rodriguez there. The only remaining vacancy on the library board is my stand in it, so as, right now I don't have one, and I'll be attending every meeting as of now, until I find something. You have a report, Greg, from Barbara?
Yeah, Barbara had mentioned this a while ago about a new process about placing documents online. So she was supposed to meet with a few vendors, but because of the weather, everything gets postponed, so, but she is working on that.
Okay, so at this time, I'd ask for a motion to enter into closed session.
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor, just for purposes of identifying the reason this has to do with the,
I was gonna mention,
Sorry.
that afterwards.
Okay.
We have to discuss the contract with Waterside Construction, and we have the police personnel.
Okay, whereas the Borough of Edgewater desires to meet in private and/or executive session, discuss matters that are permitted by the exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Act as indicated herein. Any collective bargaining agreement or terms and conditions which are proposed for inclusion in any collective bargaining agreement, including negotiation of terms and conditions with employees or representatives of employees of the public body, and any pending or anticipated litigation or contract negotiation in which the public body is or may become a party, any matters falling within the attorney-client privilege, the extent that confidentiality is required in order for the attorney to exercise his ethical duties as a lawyer, now therefore be resolved. Glen Marion Council shall recess into private or executive closed session to discuss the aforementioned subject matter of Waterside Construction and police personnel. And the minutes of same may be disclosed at such time in the future as the governing body in its discretion may be determined according to law.
My question for you, Greg, it was my understanding that the contract discussion would be regards to the 3 players that walk into the Veterans Field. Is that an issue?
We can simply add that into the minutes here. So we did list Waterside Construction, police personnel, and you'd like to add
Terms and negligence.
terms environmental and negligent engineering within that discussion as well. Okay, do I have, I need an introduction in a second, Mayor?
I ask for an introduction.
I'll introduce it.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Councilman Henry.
Yes.
Councilman Doran. Councilman Monty.
Abstain.
Councilman Vidal.
Yes.
Councilman Bartolome.
Yes.
I don't know how long we'll be back there, but it shouldn't be too long.